One of the concerns I have is right now I'm listening and I know the constraints that they're imposing on the courts to keep your costs low, cut your costs. And I guess I tell my clients sometimes justice isn't cheap. You actually have to pay for it, you know, and I think that we're getting away from that a little bit. And some of the questions I have is towards the end of your year, are you finding you're robbing Peter to pay Paul because things are coming up?
I think in every well-balanced budget, when you are trying to, as I said, I believe we are a separate but equal branch of government. We all know we're all interdependent upon each other, and we all have to work together in the best interest of the community we serve. There is always some very hard decisions, Assemblyman, that we have to make. And as far as, and they're very difficult, and I have to tell you, there's many people from our Department of the Budget that I speak to, you know, weekly about where are we. That's why we carefully monitor our overtime. That's why we carefully monitor our attrition. And yes, at times, there is times when there's more money available from one program that we have to shift to another, but it is a constant, you know, it is a constant monitoring, hands-on approach to managing this budget.
Right, because one of the things I'm finding is I practice in court, and a lot of times when we're in court, we cut down the number of court officers sufficiently. And what happens is a lot of cases, if you'll have somebody in custody or something, you can't get them up there. Or they'll have to close down an entire courtroom because 2 court officers are assigned there. If they take someone in custody, they have to close the courtroom down to go get them. Then we have the new program where they're using, they're going away from the stenographers.
Yes. And
we're using the digital, which sometimes it's cutting off, sometimes it takes us longer to get transcripts, and all of these little inconveniences to speak of. What they do is they add to the court congestion, they add to the time that, you know, the proceedings are going. So sometimes I'm just asking, there are times where we're stepping over $1 to pay, and I'm not blaming you, I'm not blaming,
I know
it's
you're
the
not
constraints
blaming
that you're under. But there are some instances now where we're stepping over $1 to pick up a dime, where it's cheaper here, but in the long run, it sometimes costs us money.
Well, we try very, very hard not to do that. You know, if that was the case, we would have abandoned e-filing, and we won't abandon e-filing because it's not only the wave of the future, it's going to save our court system in this state millions and millions and millions of dollars. With regard to court officers, that's why there's small incremental improvements in 2 academies, one inside, one outside of the city of New York, because you're right, we need more court officers. And I tell you, we carefully look and monitor, whether it be in any of our court facilities. You know, we put a great investment in court interpreters, and we are carefully looking to do the very, very best for the community we serve. I do not believe we are at the state of affairs where we are adversely affecting our operations at this point. And I hope that you have seen in the last year that we have tried to address some of your concerns as well as some of your fellow members.
Right. I have one other concern.
Go right ahead.
Last year, you and I spoke about putting a trial part in. And I was so happy you left here, you looked right at it, and you put a trial part up. And what I understand, it's working great.
Thank you.
Okay, they actually...
It was a great suggestion.
They cut a lot of courts. My other problem last year was, though, with CPL 3030.
Yes.
And what continues to happen is cases that should be gone 3030, okay? They drag on, and what happens is people have a constitutional right, both in the state constitution and the federal constitution, to a speedy trial. But the biggest excuse that we have now with that is they take court time, court congestion. We can't get to your case, can't get to your case. Well, that goes against the purpose of the 3030 statute. And one of the things I asked is it's not being enforced by the appellant. term. I watch the appellate rulings, and they won't address 30-30. There's a real problem, and in order to alleviate some of this court congestion, there's a real problem when, because the courts don't have the time to do a trial or a hearing, that the person's right to a speedy trial gets stopped because of the court's inability to move forward with a trial or a hearing. So in this case, there are some times where, you know, we have to enforce the codes that are in place. And I just don't think we're doing it in that area in this state.
Let me address you this way, that the Chief Judge and I have talked about this matter and are very well aware of the concerns that you raised. And as you see with the new program that we started in the Bronx, which had the most oldest cases, those cases over 3 years old, felony cases over 3 years old, and we started a new project in the Bronx. And we will continue to monitor throughout the state of New York. We started in the Bronx because that's where our biggest problem was. But there's other places where we have to address that concern as well. And I assure you, we're well aware of it. We're on top of it. We're starting in the Bronx. The next place we go will be depending on where the numbers look and where the most help is needed.
Well,
But I
you to
appreciate you bringing these things to my attention, and I do enjoy our conversations.
Thank you, Judge.